Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to offer dana, then please do go to justthiszen.org/giving. Your support really does make a huge difference. Thank you so much.
Good morning. Quite often I like to return to a phrase or something which anchors me, but also opens me to a sense of vastness. And this morning's phrase is from Suzuki Roshi, and he says, to feel your being here in this moment is a very important practice. To feel or to be yourself at a certain time, in a certain place, this is why we practice our way. And I have an idea of certain descriptions of practice as put them in your pocket moments. And because I like to be reminded sometimes of why are we doing this? If someone asks me, sometimes I have a certain sort of blankness about what I would say. So I've got this in my back pocket, and you may want to sometimes put certain things in your pocket and remember which garment you put it in. Perhaps don't put it in the wash. And then you have it. You have it with you. I think Trudy sometimes tells the story of somebody who discovered the secret of life, and he put it in his pocket, and he'd also forgotten that he'd put it in his pocket and couldn't find it again. So, to feel your being here right now, in this moment, is a very important practice. It's very fundamental. Recently, Trudy, Mary and I went to St Ives to visit Virginia Woolf's childhood garden overlooking St Ives Bay, and to the lighthouse, which was the inspiration for the book To the Lighthouse. And Johann Lehrer, who wrote a wonderful book called Proust was a neuroscientist, wrote, Woolf realized that the self emerges via the act of attention. We bind together our sensory parts by experiencing them from a particular point of view. The outside world gets thoroughly interpreted. So our sensory parts, when we attend to any aspect of life, or in this case, this weekend, beauty, the self emerges from the act of attention. And he goes on to say, any given experience can endure about 10 seconds in short-term memory. After that, the brain exhausts its capacity for the present tense, and its consciousness must begin anew with a new stream. And the implications for this, for me, with the self being emerging from what we attend to, is we are a fiction created by our habits of attention. is a self-created wonder. Shakyamuni Buddha said, "We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. With our thoughts, we make the world. We make the world inside us." When I realised I was going to offer the final talk of the weekend, there were different ways I could have thought about it. I could have got quite busy because I have a strand of self-responsibility that I sometimes struggle with. And I could have thought, gosh, there's going to be 4 talks and 2 ceremonies, and so on and so on and so on. And so I could have coached myself into a position of some responsibility and anxiety. But I thought of the reclining Buddha that we sometimes see in Buddhist iconography. And the reclining Buddha, it is the Buddha which reclines to his right, to her right, and rests her head in his hand. And apparently this took place when the Buddha was very ill and close to death. So I had this image of the reclining Buddha to shift my perspective. And I remember Flint once said, actually Zen is a shift in perspective. It's the same life, the same task, the same challenge, and yet it's possible to shift it to something which moves towards freedom. And so this weekend I've been enjoying the different aspects of the weekend from the perspective of the reclining Buddha. And in a Hakomi exercise we sometimes do in 3s, the reclining Buddha lies on the floor and 2 people talk about something which is precious to them for maybe 10 minutes each. And then the reclining Buddha offers something at the end. It could be a song, a phrase, an appreciatory comment. But the reclining Buddha is receiving all the impressions of the world, including the conversation that's going on between the 2 people. Just as here we have the traffic, the different light, the sounds, the movement of each other, everything is going on that the reclining Buddha can absorb and respond to. And Flint on Friday said, in response to the first of the first part, caught in the self-centered dream only suffering, he said, maybe we could slow down. We can let, we can allow, we can invite, we can surrender. Suzuki Roshi said, the purpose of Zazen, of practice, is to attain the freedom of our being, physically and mentally. So that's another one I'm going to put in my pocket. Why am I doing this? To attain the freedom of our being, physically and mentally. And sometimes it's just needs just the slightest shift of perspective to go in a different direction. Sometimes it's small and incremental, and sometimes it's big and vast. Suzuki Roshi said, according to Dogen Zenji, every existence is a flashing into the vast phenomenal world. Each existence is another expression of the quality of being itself. Each existence here, today, you are another expression of the quality of being itself. And if I think about that in relation to the retreat, there have been so many flashings into existence during this precious 3 days together, so many delights and wonders to think about and respond to. And the first one was the setup. It was very beautiful. We were all here, we had prepared, but we were responding to the particular conditions of this room and the needs of this retreat and the numbers of these people. And everybody was responding with great care to each other, purposefully, with kindness and with attention. A couple of days ago, I saw that Trudy had a label sticking out of her blouse, and I said, "Can I tuck this in for you?" And I thought of care labels on clothes, and they usually, they say wash at 30 or 40, put them in the tumble dryer or not, so we have a look if we take care of our clothes. And I thought, what if we all had a care label? And we could just look at somebody's beautiful neck and go, oh yes. And it said a few words about how to care for this person, which will be unique, but also in some ways very universal and similar. I wonder what would be on your care label. But what we're doing in the Sangha here, and what we were doing on Thursday afternoon, is we were intuiting each other's care label in a very beautiful way, and responding and shifting and dancing with that particular responsiveness that's called for. But I think every care label, like most care labels are the same, would say, do you see me? Do you get me? Do you choose me? Do you love me? That would be, I think, a commonality amongst all the care labels. Do you see me? Do you get me? Do you choose me? Do you love me? And sometimes, in the deliciousness of having so many people here who I love deeply, it's actually quite hard sometimes to kind of feel like I'm kind of responding enough to transmit that I do love you, I do get you, I do see you. But it's fleeting because we're moving around, we're in silence, and there's that kind of tension between the energy of doing that and the practice. How can we do it within the practice of silence? When Trudy and I were in an ashram in the 80s, we used to go to darshan with Swami Muktananda, and each line there would be 4 people, and you'd bow at his feet and offer something, and he would stroke you with peacock feathers, and he would look down at you, and you could ask a question, and the Swami would translate the question, but seldom there wasn't time for it. There were hundreds of people. So some people wanted a kind of a special relationship with him and felt that he didn't see them, particularly if he never spoke to them. They wanted some sort of connection with him. And he said, he described the secret ray of love. He said, I look at each person with great love. To see everyone once is enough. It's enough. So as we're moving across this space, sometimes just a glance, or a touch, or a gesture is just enough. Nothing extra is required, even though sometimes we feel it is. Nothing extra is required. To see everyone once fully is enough. The second beautiful thing I want to talk about is John and Lynn's welcome. I was completely wonderstruck by the beauty of that welcome. It's not an easy thing to welcome people. We think it's simple. It's not. It requires years of attention and practice and orientation towards other people. And it was a beautiful teaching. That was the first teaching of the weekend, to be fully greeted with some context and some warmth. When I was working with young people with the youth offending team, I often worked really closely with young people to support them to go back into school. I don't know whether that was a good thing or not, but I did. And I remember once I worked with a young person about school phobia and difficulties of being there and so on and so on. And I said to the deputy head, we'll come in on Monday at 2:00 and a warm welcome would be really appreciated. And he says, yes, I'll give him a warm welcome. But it wasn't a warm welcome. He got off on the wrong foot straight away. That was his warm welcome. It was harsh. So it's not an easy thing, and I have enormous gratitude to you for the way that you embodied that. You embodied the whole retreat from the start. And then the wonder of Trudy's talks. As I sat here, I wondered how a young woman who, on a December night 48 years ago, said, will you walk me home, has got here to offering the Dharma just so beautifully and abundantly. It's like, how does that happen? How do we evolve? How do we all evolve into who we are completely? The mystery of evolving into who we are. I remember when I first went to her room, she had an altar in her wardrobe. She had plants everywhere. And my friends warned me about this. Warned me, this may not go well. And here we are. And then the beauty of the walking, the amount of preparation we do to walk for several times for 15 minutes, to try to create a space for us to experience something. And that was done so beautifully by Sally and by Duncan. And how to actually support us to walk in this vast, vast space, which doesn't seem like it, like the sky above and the earth beneath. steadiness and with care and with purpose and with attention for 15 minutes is really hard. Our attention goes after a few seconds, after 10 seconds, and then we have to come back again, come back again, come back again. And it's just, I find it very beautiful to see the circles moving in that way with such intent and cooperation. And then Judy led the pantoums so beautifully. There was a feeling of Buddha's realm, the world of Buddha in those pantoums, a feeling of complete love. And we're going to hear another one today that we didn't hear on Friday, and Trudy's going to read it, and it's Shelley's pantoum. So it's really important to hear everyone if we want to be heard. So over to you, Trudy.
A crow lands on the pavement in front of me and holds my gaze. As I wait for my bus in Ambleside, a dusky sky fell over the town. A couple of weeks ago, maybe. Finishing work, the evening ahead is looming, my heart heavy as stone. As I wait for my bus in Ambleside, I silently thank the crow for coming, and it flies away. I feel grateful, lifted. Finishing work, the evening ahead is looming, my heart heavy as a stone. Thank you, thank you. I silently thank the crow for coming, and it flies away. I feel grateful, lifted. I see them all around now, in trees and on wires, many. A murder of crows? Thank you, thank you. I notice I am calmed, strengthened even. I can meet what is ahead. I see them all around me now, in trees and on wires, many. A murder of crows? A couple of weeks ago maybe. I notice I am calmed, strengthened even. I can meet what is ahead. A crow lands on the pavement in front of me and holds my gaze.
Thank you, Shelley. Jan, would you get the staff behind us there, please? So then we had the ceremonies, and I think what they most expressed for me from the two main participants, all of the participants, but from Judy and from Jan, is let the beauty you are be what you express. And if I was going to say something to a head student, would be let the beauty you are be what you express. Not so much about what you do, maybe that's extra. It's how you are. And that was expressed so beautifully by Judy in her year, and by Jan in the years she's walked towards being head student, and by everybody in that ceremony. And this staff is a blackthorn staff, and we bought it about 8 years ago, and we wanted to have a native wood for our staff. And Jo was saying it has a real energy to it now, and she was holding it. And Trudy, Catherine, Lynn, John, Judy, and now Jan are the kind of custodians of the blackthorn staff. And I wonder if you'd actually like to take it home with you.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, because sometimes we forget to do that. So I'm going to hand that to you. So, I'm going to talk about something that we could realise, spend a life actually just realising. or maybe an instant. So in the Genjo Koan, there's chapter 4, and Suzuki Roshi writes this about it. Dogen Zenji said, although everything has Buddha nature, we love flowers, and we do not care for weeds. This is human nature. But that we are attached to some beauty is itself Buddha's activity. We should know that. If you know that, it is all right to attach to something. If it is Buddha's attachment, that is non-attachment. It's very easy to think of the first bit. It's okay to do that. But what is Buddha's attachment? We can spend a lifetime exploring that before we go too quickly into accepting our preferences. So he says, so in love there should be hate or non-attachment, and in hate there should be love or acceptance. Love and hate are one thing. We should not attach to love alone. We should accept hate. We should accept weeds, despite how we feel about them. If you do not care for them, do not love them. If you love them, then love them. I do not love.
We know.
But when I bought this yesterday, I felt really quite tender towards it because it's actually really beautiful. But I don't like them. And I realise I sometimes add something extra to that. If it's on the menu at a restaurant, I can be reactive. Why would you cook an aubergine? But something shifted in this. It's like, if you do not love it, just don't love it. And I like apples. So, together, we have an apple and an aubergine that represent my preferences. The aubergine represents my preferences for anything I don't like. Politically, with events in the world, with how it's going. The apple represents everything I'm drawn towards. So, we often put on the altar things we love. So I want to put the aubergine and the apple together on the altar. And I sometimes think we don't think about this possibility enough to actually place our loves and our concerns and our wonders actually into the form, into a ritual. So would you hold that for me, Jan? Thank you. So, I'm actually going to read out the chapter 4, it's very short, of the Genjo Koan, which Suzuki Roshi was referring to. And I'm going to read it out line by line, see how it goes. Conveying oneself towards all things to carry out practice enlightenment is delusion. conveying oneself to all things to practice enlightenment is delusion. All things coming and carrying out practice enlightenment through the self, in brackets, we think we are, is realization. All things coming towards us, creating us, is realization. Those who greatly realize delusion are Buddhas. Those who greatly realize delusion are Buddhas. Those who are greatly deluded in realization are living beings. Furthermore, there are those who attain realization beyond realization and those who are deluded within delusion. And just to simplify, Shohaku Okamura says, Dogen said that those who recognize that this self-centered basis of their practice, are Buddhas. If you recognize the self-centered basis of your practice are Buddhas, you are a Buddha. This means that the act of truly seeing our self-centeredness is itself Buddha. Truly seeing our self-centeredness is Buddha. So to take Suzuki Roshi's words, I should accept aubergines despite how I feel about them. I should accept hate. I should explore this realm of what Buddha nature is. A little while ago, I watched a beautiful interview between Monty Don, the wonderful gardener, and Shunmyo Masuno. And Monty Don went to Shunmyo Masuno's garden. He's a garden designer and a priest in, I think it was Kyoto or Tokyo. And Shunmyo Masuno showed Monty Don his garden. Beautiful garden on the top of the station in Kyoto. And in the corner there were these, I'm going to call them ugly, because I have a preference, these vending machines. And so they'd had the tour of the garden, and Monty Don said, well, okay, what about those over there? And Shunmyo Masuno turned to him and said, I accept. Now, he may not love them, I imagine he doesn't, but his practice was to accept they're there. You know, people have to come up from the train station, they're thirsty, etc., etc. But there was an acceptance of that. Accept the traffic is here. Accept. And I really thought this was a very beautiful practice, even in non-acceptance. There was a little thing at the back of a Buddhist magazine once, and the question was, well, what should I do if I don't sincerely feel this? And I thought the teacher was going to say, well, you know, you should really kind of feel it first. And he said, no, fake it. Fake it until it becomes you. Fake it. So, at the end of some of his talks, I remember Suzuki Roshi saying, forget what I've said. So I'm going to say right now, just forget what I've said. But maybe something is there. It's quite a lot. But maybe something is there. But he says, To have some deep feeling about Buddhism is not the point. We just do what we should do, like eating supper and going to bed. This is Buddhism. For us, monastic life was the usual life, and the people who came from the city were unusual people. When we saw them, we felt, oh, some unusual people have come. But when Suzuki Roshi returned to his monastery after some time, he had a different experience. He heard the various sounds of practice, the bells and the monks reciting the sutra, and he describes having a deep feeling. Rubina and I were sitting outside this morning listening to with the morning service, and it was really touching. I really felt it move through me. And I thought about this. He said, there were tears flowing out of my eyes, nose and mouth. It is the people outside the monastery who feel its atmosphere. This is who are practicing. People who actually practice do not feel anything. I think this is true for everything. And he says this about our conception of beauty. He says, when we hear the sound of the pine trees on a windy day, perhaps the wind is just blowing, and the pine tree is standing in the wind. That is all they're doing. But the people who listen to the wind in the tree will write a poem, or will feel something unusual. This, I think, is the way everything is. All the time we're paying attention, we're creating something with our beautiful minds. This is the way everything is. So maybe one thing to leave you with today, maybe one thing you might kind of put in your pocket and take with you, is something from Ram Dass on beauty. He really struggled with self-acceptance because he thought to be a deep practitioner he had to be really perfect, really worked out, and to be seen as that as well. So it was a real struggle for him mentally to be a leader, a spiritual leader. And he said, the first thing I had to do was accept my own truth. I had to allow myself to be a human being. He said, now, what I found was that as I started to allow myself to be more human, just allowed what I am, things changed much faster in me. I mean, things fell away more quickly. It was as if I was locked into a model which was based on that negativity, that dislike of myself. And once I just allowed myself to be human, with all the foibles, things started to flow, and I could feel a change occurring in myself. So the first thing I had to do was accept my own truth. I had to allow myself to be a human being. And so he gives this advice at the end, which I'd like to close my talk with. Maybe write it down and put it in my pocket. He says, work on yourself. Have compassion for yourself. Allow yourself to be beautiful, and all the rest will follow. Work on yourself. Have compassion for yourself. Allow yourself to be beautiful, and all the rest will follow. Thank you very much.